มีลูกน้องมาแต่ว่าตรวจสอบเกียรติก็ต่อวันที่สัมภาษณ์แล้วก็การสัมภาษณ์เขาบอกว่าทิ้งส่งให้ร้านตลอดไปแต่ว่าพวกนี้เขาก็อ่านได้
พอดีจะนั่งดู40 นิ้วม่วงดีตอนนี้เขาบอกไม่เอาแล้วครับวันที่เช้าหน้าวันที่ปวดเยอะมากปวดทางบ้านวันเท้าเป็นขีดเลื่อนมาเพราะมันคนข้างขึ้นพวกเซอร์ต้าแต่ล่าสุดเล่นบังตอนโชคดีเล่นอย่างนี้กับพวกมันแข่งตอนไม่ได้เป็นอันนั้นคือที่มันเป็นแปลกที่มัน
So, shall I start? Okay. Excellencies and distinguished delegates, good morning and welcome to the second day of the committee. We shall now take up agenda item 5, overview of the work of the Secretariat and the United Nations system at a regional level. The document printed to this agenda item is ESCAP/CDR 8INF/1, entitled Overview of the Work of the Secretariat and the United Nations Development System at a Regional Level. I now have the pleasure to invite Ms. Tiziana Benapachi, Director of the Information and Communications Technology and Disaster Risk Reduction Division, IDD, to deliver a statement on the agenda item. Please.
Thank you, Chair, and a very good morning to all the distinguished delegates present today, the second day of our committee on DRR. In my presentation today, under this agenda item 5, which reviews the work of the Secretariat and the UN system, I would like to focus on the geospatial applications for disaster risk reduction and resilience. And I'm focusing on the geospatial applications in the interests of time and in the interests of being brief, because the overall work on DRR we had ample opportunity yesterday to discuss, but the specific aspects of geospatial information applications we did not yet fully present and discuss and seek your guidance. So the first slide just recaps our Asia-Pacific Plan of Action on Space Applications for Sustainable Development, which runs from 2018 to 2030. It has 188 actions that were agreed to by the members and associate members of the Commission and endorsed through a resolution. And there are 6 themes. By far, most of the actions are in natural resource management and disaster risk reduction and resilience. I'm also pleased to inform the committee that the government of Indonesia hosted the 4th ministerial conference on space applications. Ministerial declaration was adopted in October 26, 2022. And in this declaration, there is a request to the Secretariat to facilitate consideration of the initiatives of the government of Indonesia concerning disaster risk. And in particular, the proposed initiatives of the government of Indonesia are the setting up of a virtual satellite constellation for disaster risk management, focused in particular on continuous pre-disaster risk assessments in risk hotspots for better disaster preparedness and disaster management throughout the cycles of disasters. There is also a request for rapid mapping of disaster hotspots using digital innovation tools, and then the establishment of a youth forum on Space Plus for our Earth and future. And so related to this, ESCAP is in the process of accelerating implementation of the Space Action Plan. We have focused in particular on building institutional capacity for the use of integrated spatiotemporal data in local SDG monitoring and decision making. And we are focused in particular on setting up a Central Asian drought information system, and then also agricultural crop monitoring, focused in particular on the lower Mekong Basin, and then other areas of Northeast and Southeast Asia. We're also working in close collaboration with the UN University on developing the so-called MOOCs, the massive online, open online courses. Around 1,205 participants have participated. And we have a new course that is about to be launched. It will be launched on 1 August 2023, and it will be in Russian. It's a spatio-temporal drought assessment by leveraging the Google Earth Engine platform. Next, please. And then we also have a compendium of geospatial practices that have proven to have beneficial, positive impacts on SDG implementation. And this compendium is available both in a hard copy publication. It's a biennial publication. It comes out every 2 years. Our 2022 compendium was focused on Southeast Asia because the ministerial conference was hosted by the government of Indonesia. But we collect good practices across the region, and they are all consolidated in a database with a dashboard that processes the information and that provides some analysis and policy support for the member states. So that's my presentation for today. Thank you very much. And Chair, I hand back to you. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ms. Bonaparte. I have the pleasure to... Super. Yeah. Thank you very much, Ms. Bonaparte. I now have the pleasure to invite Ms. Letizia Rossana, Director, Asia Pacific Disaster Information Management, ESCAP, to deliver a statement on this agenda. Thank you.
Excellency, distinguished delegates, thank you. The Asia and Pacific Center for the Development of Disaster Information Management continued to implement its strategic program of work in 2021-2030 under the 3 long-term objectives of risk information, information capacity and application, and regional cooperation. Under risk information, APDIM, in cooperation with the Disaster and Emergency Management Presidency AFAD of the Government of the Republic of Turkey, organized a high-level consultative meeting on risk data governance and disaster information management and their role in enhancing, monitoring, impact-based forecasting and early warning in December 2022 in Istanbul. APDIM also moderated a thematic session on data challenges and solutions for disaster risk management at the 7th session of the Global Platform for Disaster Risk Reduction held in Bali in May 2022. The outcomes of that thematic session were included in the Global Platform Co-Chair Summary Bali Agenda for Resilience. APDIM advised on the development of the regional strategy on disaster risk reduction and the regional disaster risk profile in Central Asia, and supported the Economic Cooperation Organization, ECO, in organizing a regional consultation on disaster risk reduction and management for cascading risks and biological hazards in February 2022. Based on the outcomes of the regional consultation, the ECO Regional Plan of Action on Cascading Risks and Biological Hazards was developed with the technical support of ESCAP headquarters and APDIM. At national level, APDIM supported the development of the United Nations Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework in Iran 2327, and in particular, the Disaster Risk Reduction and Management pillar. In the Maldives, in collaboration with the Capacity Development for Disaster Risk Reduction Initiative, CADRI, and other United Nations partners, APTIM provided technical support to develop the country's national disaster management and climate change adaptation strategy. Under its long-term objective 2 on information capacity and application, APTIM, in collaboration with the ICT and Disaster Risk Reduction Division of ESCAP and its partner countries, provided the Islamic Republic of Iran with high-resolution satellite images of the areas severely affected by the floods in July and August 22. APTIM translated the academic module on ICT for disaster risk management developed by the Asian Pacific Training Center for Information and Communication Technology for Development, APCICT of ESCAP, into Urdu and Persian. APTIM also contributed to the ESCAP Statistic Division step-by-step guide on the use of QGIS in producing urban hotspot maps and a guide on how to produce maps of populations' exposures to hazards using QGIS. Under its long-term objective 3 on regional cooperation, APTIM has been especially active in the field of sand and dust storms. In working in collaboration with the Arab Center for Climate Change Policies, ACCP, of the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Western Asia, ESCOWA, we organized an interregional discussion on enhancing understanding and expanding interregional and regional cooperation on sand and dust storms in July 21. APTIM also co-leads with the ACCCP the UN Coalition on Combating Sand and Dust Storms Working Group on Regional Cooperation and Mediation. Further to the launch in the margins of this committee in August 21 of the Sand and Dust Storm Risk Assessment in Asia and the Pacific produced by APTIM, APTIM conducted sub-regional and thematic consultations with affected countries, which led to the development and subsequent endorsement by the Commission in May 22 of the Regional Plan of Action on Sand and Dust Storms in Asia and the Pacific, ESCAP/78/12/Addendum 1. APTIM conducted in the margins of this committee, just Monday 24th and Tuesday 25th July, initial consultation with member states on the 3 operational objectives of the Regional Plan of Action on Sand and Dust Storms: deepening understanding, impact-based monitoring and early warning, coordinated risk management, adaptation and mitigation. The consultations helped identifying priorities, actions, and opportunities for transboundary collaborations and joint initiatives on the specific recommended actions contained in the regional plan. And I thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Rossana. And now I have the pleasure to invite Mr. Marco Toscano Rivolta, Chief of the Regional Office for Asia and the Pacific, United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction, United Nations DRR, and co-chair with the United Nations DP, UNDP, of the issue-based coalition on resilience to deliver a statement on the agenda item. This coalition is one of the 4 coalition of the United Nations Regional Cooperation Platform. Please, thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, distinguished delegates and excellencies. I'm really pleased to address the committee on behalf of the co-chairs, UNDP and UNDRR, of the issue-based coalitions on building resilience in Asia-Pacific region. And I would like to express my appreciation to ESCAP for creating such an opportunity. I would like to start by recognizing the strong collaborations among the 21 UN entities that make up the coalitions and fundamentally their work to better understand and address the systemic nature of risk and accelerated efforts in disaster risk reduction, climate change adaptation, and resilience building. Progress in these areas is instrumental to achieve the goals of the Sendai Framework, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, the Paris Agreement, and other related frameworks, including sub-regional frameworks. Guided by a joint work plan, the IBC is focused on supporting countries in their efforts, including on transboundary risk, through, of course, the United Nations country teams under the leadership of the resident coordinators. Some of the recent achievements include for instance, in the Maldives, supported entailed capacity diagnosis of local and national systems to help inform the country's integrated approach to disaster risk reduction and climate change adaptation. In Nepal and the Philippines, focus was on accelerated digital transformation, namely through capacity building for the application of the UNDP Digital Disaster Risk Reduction Maturity Model. Knowledge products were also developed, such as the state of gender and climate change in the ASEAN region and South Asia and the Hindu-Kush Himalayan. That provided recommendations on how to implement gender equality in climate action with a closer analysis on Cambodia, Indonesia, the Philippines, and Vietnam. In addition, the IBC, in collaborations with regional partners, has supported Vietnam, Bangladesh, and the Philippines with a national midterm review of the Sendai framework for disaster risk reductions. And in fact, a much larger set of countries were addressed in different ways in supporting the midterm review. It was really critical to achieve the very strong political declaration that was adopted in May by the United Nations General Assembly. Looking ahead, the IBC's work will be informed by the policy priorities enshrined in the Sendai Framework Midterm Review political declaration that I just referred to. And furthermore, guided by the 2021 ESCAP resolution, the IBC is developing digital knowledge products that aim to operationalize the health aspects of the Sendai framework and better integrate health in disaster risk, with a focus on the Bangkok principles in support of policymakers and practitioners. And we know how important that is because the Bangkok principles were adopted in 2016. However, regrettably, by 2020, they had been forgotten, and they would have been, and their implementation would have been really critical in support of addressing the challenges that we all are aware. So we really hope that through this work, we get better and better prepared to face not only pandemic, I would say also epidemics. And that is very much strongly enshrined in the Sendai framework, and that also highlights the importance of the intersectoral approach that disaster risk reductions really needs to have. The IBC is also working with other partners such as the International Federation of the Red Cross and the Red Crescent Societies and the International Council of Voluntary Agencies on capacity buildings to support the implementation of the United Nations Secretary General's Action Plan on internal displacement and durable solution. Finally, the IBC members, together with the IFRC and other non-UN partners, and therefore catalyzing and mobilizing more capacities, are engaged in providing support for the development of multi-hazard, people-centered, end-to-end early warning systems in line of the United Nations Secretary General's Executive Plan on Early Warning for All by 2077. And we are all aware of their importance given the important discussion that we have been having together in these days. With this, Chair, I stop here. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Tuskari-Walta, for your very nice explanation. Now, I have the honor to invite distinguished delegates to share views and comments on the agenda item. I would like to open the floor for interventions from members and associated members of the Commission first, and then to observer countries and organizations, if there is. Yes. So, first, the first speaker on my list is the distinguished delegates from Indonesia. I remind all delegates to limit intervention to 3 minutes, please. I now invite to take the floor the delegates from Indonesia, please.
Thank you very much. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Indonesia, we extend our sincere appreciation for the comprehensive document prepared by the Secretariat, highlighting significant progress in regional work across the 4 vital streams. We would like to reiterate our steadfast commitment to disaster risk reduction and sustainable development, which is exemplified through several contributions, such as first, the successful adoption of the Jakarta Ministerial Declaration on Space Applications for Sustainable Development in Asia and the Pacific during the 4th Ministerial Conference on Space Application in 2022. This declaration aims to accelerate phase 2 of the plan of action and facilitate knowledge sharing and space application on geospatial data. In this regard, Indonesia has sponsored ESCAP Resolution 79/9, which highlights the implementation of the declaration that was adopted by the Commission and its 7th/9th session. Second, Indonesia has also actively contributed to enhancing capacity building in technology innovation and applications, specifically in the area of flood mappings. We have conducted activities focused on utilizing geospatial information for rapid disaster response and impact analysis, with the invaluable support of satellite data and products from esteemed international sources like Sentinel Asia and the Disaster Charter International Network. This effort was instrumental during the earthquake in Cianjur, West Java, and volcanic eruption in East Java in 2022, as well as the landslide in Riau Islands Province in 2023. To further strengthen early warning system, we propose regional cooperative initiative that leverage disaster risk management tools and are also in line with the plan of action on disaster reduction for resilience. We encourage to embody the socially inclusive, locally led and owned, people-centered, multi-hazard early warning system. These include a virtual satellite constellation for continuous pre-disaster risk assessments, machine learning for rapid mapping of disaster hotspots, and a youth forum on Space Plus for our Earth and the future. We invite member countries and cooperation partners to actively participate in the implementation of these initiatives to foster regional collaboration and build disaster resilience and sustainable development. In the same vein, providing a better world for current and future generations through risk reduction and sustainable resilience. In conclusion, Indonesia remains steadfast in advancing disaster reduction and sustainable development through regional cooperation. Together, we can create a safer and more resilient future for our nations and communities. I thank you.
Thank you very much. The distinguished delegates from Indonesia. The next speaker on my list is the delegation from China, who I now invite to take the floor, please.
谢谢主席。过去2年 ，ESCAP 秘书处积极完善多灾种早期预警系统，建立灾害数据和统计平台，推进减灾科技创新与空间应用，提供减灾技术支持与能力建设，发布专业报告，并提出政策建议。联合国相关机构在本区域通力配合，为提高区域气候适应能力和灾害韧性做出了有益贡献，中方对此表示肯定。当前，气候变化在全球范围持续推进，近年的灾害事件也一次次证明 灾害没有国界，没有哪个国家能够独自应对人类面对的各种挑战，也没有哪个国家能够退回到自我封闭的孤岛。面对灾害尤其如此。我们需要坚持真正的多边主义，发挥好联合国等多边组织促进对话、协调行动、调动资源的作用。ESCAP 应聚焦推进区域经济社会发展合作的授权，促进亚太各方在减灾领域开展务实合作，应该对最不发达国家、内陆发展中国家和小岛屿发展中国家加大灾害救援支持、技术分享与能力建设，切实履行不让一个人掉队的承诺。应切实加强区域合作，增进团结、互帮互助，推动区域更好落实2030年可持续发展议程。谢谢。
Sorry. Thank you very much, the distinguished delegates from China. The next speaker on my list is distinguished delegates from Philippines, who I now invite to take the floor, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The establishment of the Philippine Space Agency through the Philippine Space Act signifies the country's formal recognition of the increasing strategic importance of space, especially for hazard management and climate studies. According to the 2022 World Risk Index, the Philippines ranked first in the world with the highest disaster risk among 193 countries. To address issues and challenges from this, the PhilSA implements initiatives across the space value chain through data access and establishment of networks and capacity to generate actionable insights from spaceborne data for climate change adaptation and disaster risk reduction. The Philippines acknowledges with deep appreciation the work of the Secretariat. True to this effort is PhilSA's involvement in the Pan-Asia Partnership for Geospatial Air Pollution Information, or PAPGAPI-PAN project, which will monitor the condition of air quality in participating countries using data from the Geostationary Environment Monitoring Spectrometer, GEMS, aboard the GeoComSat 2B satellite, and a network of ground-based remote sensing instruments for data validation called Pandora. It is worthwhile to note that PhilSA's commitment to the PAPGAPI-PAN highlights the importance of regional cooperation in addressing climate change impacts both at the national and regional scale. Since 2022, the PAPGAPI-PAN team participated in various GEMS training sessions in South Korea, Thailand, and Mongolia, and conducted knowledge-sharing sessions to different government agencies and the academe. PhilSA also conducted site inspection as part of the site selection for the Pandora installation. Regional cooperation is crucial. The Philippines is delighted to share its participation to the International Charter for Space Major Disasters. Through this charter, the Philippines benefit particularly in the recent oil spill event in Mindoro. The Philippines, therefore, supports the initiative to establish a virtual satellite constellation which can contribute to identifying disaster hotspots and thus lead to anticipatory actions that will reduce risks or mitigate disasters. As the Philippines continuously advances its thrust and strengthen its national capacity, PhilSA, the Department of Science and Technology, and the European Union launched the Copernicus Capacity Support Action Program for the Philippines on April 24, 2023. The first space cooperation program in this region, this new initiative will help Philippine authorities develop national systems to make use of EU EU's Earth observation satellite data in the country's disaster mitigation, climate change adaptation, and food security strategies. Also, the country introduced and established a network composed of institutions and people working together towards sustainability using space data and information through the PhilSA Integrated Network for Space-Enabled Actions Towards Sustainability, or PINAS. This initiative boosts the participation of key actors from national government agencies, local government units, research institutions, and civil society organizations to fully maximize space-based solutions for agriculture, disaster risk reduction management, and environmental monitoring, among others. The Philippines remains steadfast as it continuously accelerates towards its transformation and transition. It is positive that the seeds brought about by the cohesive efforts today shall be harnessed in due course. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, the distinguished delegates from Philippines. The next speaker on my list is the distinguished delegates from Sri Lanka. I now invite to take the floor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, distinguished delegates, Sri Lanka wishes to recall the vital role that the Asia-Pacific Plan of Action on Space Applications for Sustainable Development 2018-2030 was called upon to play when it was adopted in realizing the 2030 Agenda. Having successfully progressed into implementation of Phase 2 of the Plan of Action, I wish to inform this august House that Sri Lanka has made significant progress in implementing the Plan of Action, particularly in the thematic areas of natural resource management, disaster risk reduction and resilience, and climate action. I also wish to note with appreciation the significant benefits that we have derived in this regard from the activities organized by the Space Application Section and the IDD Division of the Secretariat. My delegation wishes to underscore the criticality of the role played by the emerging digital technologies of the fourth industrial revolution, including artificial intelligence, big data analytics, IoT, and cloud computing in rapidly generating innovative solutions by their way of integration with the conventional applications of space technology in realizing the objects of the Plan of Action. In fact, our experience over the past couple of years in this subject of integration, particularly in relation to some of the highly impactful revolutionary developments that have been brought about during just the past few months by way of integrating the potential of artificial intelligence, stands in strong evidence of this fact. Mr. Chairman, this strongly justifies the importance attached to the same by ESCAP well in advance in the Plan of Action on Space Applications. Sri Lanka also wishes to place on record its strong support and commitment to the Plan of Action, particularly including its emphasis placed on integration of emerging digital technologies of the fourth industrial revolution with the conventional applications of space technology. And also, we wish to place on record our strong commitment to the initiative on the virtual satellite constellation for disaster hotspot monitoring. Let me conclude, Mr. Chairman, extending our appreciation to the Secretariat, particularly the Information and Communication Technologies and Disaster Risk Reduction Division and the Space Application Section for their commitment, initiative, and diligence, and all our partners for their contributions in realizing the commendable progress that we have achieved so far. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, the distinguished delegates from Sri Lanka. The next speaker on my list is distinguished delegates from Japan, whom I now invite to take the floor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am merging my statements from item 4 as well as 5. First, we want to appreciate and welcome the work of ESCAP and the overall UN system in promoting important DRR measures, including multi-hazard early warning systems, which is becoming increasingly important as disasters become more severe and frequent due to climate change. It's becoming increasingly key for the UN system to work effectively and efficiently together to provide necessary support and capacity development to particularly vulnerable and resource-starved, disaster-prone countries. Japan assigns great importance to promoting and implementing various disaster prevention cooperation over many years, leveraging the technology and lessons learned from many disasters that we've suffered and extending this knowledge to other similar disaster-prone countries. These efforts include promoting the development of meteorological radar systems and early warning systems and providing necessary capacity support. As an example of multilateral support under the framework with WMO in particular, the Japan Meteorological Agency shares satellite observation data and forecast information, supports human capacity development, and contributes to the development and operation of early warning systems in countries in Asia, Oceania, and others. In addition, via the UNDP, in collaboration with ESCAP and others in the UN system, Japan has also provided assistance in raising public awareness for early warning systems such as tsunami evacuation drills and education materials over the years. We raised the profile of DRR and early warning systems this year's presidency of the G7, citing early warning systems as an important element related to adaptation to climate change, loss and damage assistance, and disaster prevention. We'd like to contribute to the development and support of early warning systems and acceleration of related DRR initiatives. In addition, in order to succeed in achieving this extremely ambitious goal of disseminating early warning to all people in 5 years in this initiative, not only the organizations that lead the initiative in the UN system, UNDRR, WMO, ITO, IFRC, all relevant stakeholders, including other public and private sector entities, should work together for mutually reinforcing synergies and effective resource mobilization. We understand that many countries, not just Japan, are already promoting bilateral as well as multilateral assistance to DRR. It's important for all of us that all of our efforts are not duplicated, leading to fragmentation of support efforts. This impairs accurate analysis and forecasts, so it may be useful for ESCAP to summarize the existing and planned efforts of each country and organization in the region to avoid duplication of effort and identify real gaps. We'd like to continue to provide various types of support and contribute to this initiative with ESCAP and the UN system while seeking to enhance ways of increasing further effectiveness. Finally, this year is the 50th anniversary of the ASEAN-Japan Friendship and Cooperation, and as the first country partner, we pay importance to reinforcing regional partnerships like these and achieving complementarity with the achievement of SDGs. As our Parliamentary Vice Minister, Mr. Akimoto, said at the most recent commission, Japan views ESCAP as an important forum in light of our new plan for a free and open Indo-Pacific in our emphasis for equal partnerships with countries within the region based on mutual respect for diversity while addressing the challenges of the region. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, the distinguished delegates from Japan. The next speaker on my list is the distinguished delegates from Islamic Republic of Iran, who I now invite to take the floor, please.
In the name of God, Mr. Chair, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, good day everyone. On behalf of the government of Islamic Republic of Iran, as the host country of APTIM, and in my personal capacity as the Director General of National Cartographic Center of Iran, I'd like to thank ESCAP team, especially APTIM Secretariat, for co-organizing the meeting. Today's meeting reflects the Asia and Pacific region's strong commitment to overcome our current and future common challenges related to implementation of effective and impactful disaster risk reduction and resilience policies, regulations, and actions with emphasis on early warning systems. By all accounts, the Asia-Pacific region is the most disaster-prone continent in the world. We are 30 times more likely to be hit by disasters than someone in Europe, and 2 times more likely than someone in Africa. As such, it is naturally expected for the Asia-Pacific region to lead their role in establishing coordinated, inclusive, and transponder early warning systems throughout the continent. Here it should be mentioned that while North-West or top-down cooperation is required for capacity building related to disaster preparedness, more inclusive triangular cooperation is needed to solidify initiatives in regards to early warning system. In this way, countries can become more cognizant of their strengths and gaps simultaneously, more novel modes of cooperation through sharing data, technical transfer, or other methods can manifest. In Iran, my organization, National Cartographic Center, as a sub-body of budget and planning organization, and the National Mapping Agency is policymaking and governing body in the field of map and spatial information and related infrastructure and systems at national level. The NCC plays a leading role among the country's executive bodies in this regard, since many elements and components of natural disasters and hazards depend on location information, so they fall within the purview of our organization. Islamic Republic of Iran decided to choose National Cartographic Center as the representative of country in the Governing Council of APTIM, which emphasizes the importance of geospatial information in disaster management and spatial in developing the early warning systems. Besides, National Cartographic Center of Iran holds a position in United Nations Global Geospatial Information Management in Asia and Pacific, known as UNGGMAP, as the chair of working group named Integrating Spatial Data and Statistics, whose case studies disaster management, and which is another reason on importance of geospatial information and systems in disaster management. In other words, the demo part of APTIM is deeply related to geospatial information. So NCC has the capacity to create synergy between various actors of UN in this field. For instance, establishing the Regional Spatial Data Infrastructure, or SDI, is an aggregate open approach to share maps and spatial information on disaster management. It can provide vital need of early warning systems to a single window for organizing various data sources. The Iranian multi-million USD donations for APTIM testifies to Iran's commitment to the global public good and regional development, which has been done despite the tough economic blockades and illegitimate sanctions. May God bless you all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, distinguished delegates from Islamic Republic of Iran. As I see, there is no more delegates who wish to take the floor. Before closing the item, I would like to open the floor for intervention from observers who may wish to address the committee. Okay. Thank you all for your remarks. As I see that there are no further intervention, we shall now take up agenda item 6 on consideration of the further focus on the sub-program on disaster risk reduction. I now have the pleasure to invite Ms. Wabke Ude, Program Planning Officer, SPMD, to introduce this item, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the opportunity to introduce agenda item 6, consideration of the future focus of the subprogram. For this agenda item, I will walk you through the objective and the strategy of the subprogram, as well as the results related to disaster risk reduction that are contained in the program plan for 2024. I will walk you through a selection of projects that are implemented by the subprogram and contribute to ESCAP's cross-cutting areas, and the planning process for the proposed program plan for 2025, to which the committee is invited to provide inputs. In presenting this slide, I'd like to refer to document ESCAP/79/71 Ref 1, the proposed program plan for 2024, as the content of the program of work has been shortened for this presentation. The objective of the subprogram is to strengthen information and communications technology, space technology applications, and disaster risk reduction and management for resilient and sustainable development in Asia and the Pacific through regional cooperation and the sharing of best practices. The subprogram's strategy highlights the main entry points of the subprogram to contribute to this objective. In 2024, the subprogram will focus on the development of norms, It will promote regional policy dialogue and cooperation. In addition, the subprogram will focus on capacity building through South-South and North-South modalities. In 2024, the subprogram plans to leverage regional and sub-regional cooperation through the Asia-Pacific Disaster Resilience Network, the ESCAP Multi-Donor Trust Fund for Tsunami Disaster and Climate Preparedness, and disaster information management services provided by the Asia-Pacific Center for the Development of Disaster Information Management. It will further assist in the advancement of inclusive digital transformation, the use of innovative risk analysis and geospatial data applications, and targeted solutions for countries that face a high disaster risk. These main entry points for providing support to member states are expected to result in the anticipation of disaster risks and the enhancement of disaster risk reduction and management solutions, as well as enhanced applications and integrated geospatial information to reduce disaster risk and accelerate the monitoring and the implementation of the SDGs. The proposed program plan further contains 4 results, one of which directly relates to the work of the subprogram on disaster risk reduction. This result highlights the work of the subprogram in tailoring the findings of the Asia-Pacific Disaster Report 2021 to the warming trends at the sub-regional level. This analysis aims at informing national and sub-regional action plans and strategies. The achievement of the result will be measured by the number of sub-regional organizations that adopt disaster risk reduction and climate adaptation frameworks and support the early warning for all initiative. With the revision of ESCAP's conference structure in 2022, the Commission reviewed the areas that shall be mainstreamed into the work of all its committees. These cross-cutting areas of work are the implementation and the monitoring of the achievement of the relevant internationally agreed development goals, in particular the SDGs, poverty reduction and sustained recovery from large shocks for a more equitable Asia and the Pacific, gender equality, the priority needs of least developed countries, landlocked developed countries, and small island developing states, and science and technology and innovation, and in particular, digital technology for a safe and inclusive digital transformation. This slide highlights a small selection of projects that focus on these cross-cutting themes. These projects that are implemented by the subprogram complement its program of work. Let me briefly walk you through the main steps in the development, review, and approval process of the next iteration of ESCAP's program plan for the year 2025. Between September and December this year, ESCAP will prepare its proposed program plan for 25, which will then be reviewed by the Advisory Committee of Permanent Representatives and other representatives designated by members of the Commission. In April 24, the proposed program plan for 2025 will be submitted to the 80th Commission session for its endorsement. Subsequently, the plan will be reviewed by the Committee on Program on Coordination, a subsidiary body of the General Assembly. And towards the end of 2024, the 5th Committee of the General Assembly will consider the proposed program budget. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, the decisions and recommendations emanating from the 8th session of the Committee on Disaster Risk Reduction will be taken up by the subprogram to inform the future focus of its work. You are therefore invited to make any proposals for the future focus of the subprogram. I thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Ude. Now I have the pleasure to invite distinguished delegates to share views and comments on the agenda item, if there is. Yes. So as I see, there are no more delegates who wish to take the floor. Before closing this item, I would like to open the floor for intervention from observers who may wish to address the committee. We did it before, but there is no. No. So, as I see, there are no further intervention. This concludes our discussion under agenda item 6.1. Other matters. Under this agenda item, the committee is invited to take note of the following. The chair and the vice chair of the 8th session of the committee and director risk reduction examined the credential of representatives received by the member states in accordance with Rule 12 of the ESCAP rule of procedure. The Bureau noted that credentials had been received by a total 31 member states and one associated members. And for them to be in order. I now open the floor for any comments under this item. Does any delegates wish to raise any other matter, please? So, as there are no further intervention, we have concluded our consideration of agenda item 7 and reached the end of our substantive deliberations. I would like to remind delegates that the Commission agreed that statements in the exercise of the right of reply will be delivered at the end of the meeting at which the right is requested. In this connection, I would like to remind all delegates that statements in the exercise of their right of reply are limited to 3 minutes only for the first intervention and 2 minutes for the second intervention. Accordingly, noting the request from the distinguished delegates of Japan to exercise their right of reply, I now give the floor to the distinguished delegates of Japan. You have the floor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There was a statement made by China yesterday under Agenda Item 3 on our Fukushima Daiichi nuclear plant from 12 years ago. We are disappointed that China continues to raise repeatedly the same issues that are beyond the technical capacities and legal mandate of this body with erroneous facts, indicating that its motivations are purely political with questionable intentions. The government of Japan has continuously provided detailed explanations on this matter to the international community and to concerned countries based on the scientific evidence transparently, while undergoing a rigorous review by the IAEA, which is mandated to establish or adopt and apply international safety standards in the field of nuclear energy under the IAEA statute. We just received a comprehensive report from the IAEA this month, which underscored that 1, the approach and activities related to the discharge of the plant's treated water are consistent with relevant international safety standards, and 2, the radiological impact on humans and the environment is negligible. First, factual corrections must be reiterated. The water to be discharged by the Fukushima nuclear plant is treated water, not contaminated water, whose concentrations of radioactive materials are far below international regulatory standards. This is achieved by purifying the water through the Advanced Liquid Processing System, or ALPS, until the concentration of radioactive materials is well below the regulatory standard. For tritium, which is found in water normally discharged from nuclear power plants in regular operations around the world, the concentration level will be 1/7 of the WHO drinking water standard after the dilution. To put things into perspective in annual terms, this amount of tritium is to be discharged is equivalent to about 1/5 to 1/7 of the amount of tritium discharged into the sea from each of the nuclear power plants reported by China. Using the phrase discharge of contaminated water into the sea in this context, therefore, is misleading and not based on scientific facts, and we urge for correction. To be very clear, as a country dependent on the sea for our livelihood, the government of Japan will never approve the discharge of the water into the sea if the water does not meet international and national regulatory safety standards. Second, the assertions made about the number of radionuclides in the treated water is actually factually incorrect. Due to the half-life effects of the radioactive material already 12 years after the accident, the number of nuclides that possibly exist before treatment by ALPS has halved. In any case, as we have said earlier, all nuclides other than tritium are removed by various processing systems, including ALPS, until the concentration level of the substances is well below the international and national regulatory standards. And should any abnormality be detected in the future, Tokyo Electric Power Company is committed and enforced to investigate its cause, solve the problems, and to repurify the water, as it is not allowed to discharge the water unless it is confirmed that the concentration of radionuclides fall well below the regulatory standards. With regard to the impact on the Pacific, numerous oceanic dispersion simulations and assessment of radiological environmental impact, including those conducted by IAEA and Chinese institutions, have shown and assessed the impact to be generally undetectable. The analysis takes into account the effects of ocean currents based on meteorological and oceanographic conditions over a 7-year period, rendering the claim that the spread to most areas of Pacific Ocean within 57 days devoid of scientific basis. To put things into perspective, note also that the radiological impact of the discharge of ALPS treated water into the sea in annual terms is below 0.1% of the radiation received on a flight between Tokyo and New York. On a final note, let me emphasize that the government of Japan is committed to continue to provide necessary information to the international community in a transparent manner and open to consultations, and will continue to do so. We do not think it is constructive for China to stir unfounded anxiety and spreading one-sided claims and misinformation at an unrelated body without the necessary expertise or mandate. We urge China to engage as the appropriate forum equipped with the necessary expertise, specialists, and delegates, and to refrain from politicizing a matter which requires technical literacy and expertise. Thank you for the floor.
Okay, thank Japan for the statement, and now I recognize the distinguished delegates of China. You have the floor, please. For 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chinese delegation would like to exercise our right to reply. First of all, I would like to strongly oppose to the accusations made by the Japanese delegate about these politicization accusations. I want to emphasize voicing concern over the impacts on the environmental safety and human health from the ocean discharge of nuclear contaminated water is not politicization. The decision to discharge the nuclear contaminated water into the sea in itself is a political decision. Mr. Chair, I want to emphasize several points concerning about the points made by the Japanese delegate. The report of the International Atomic Energy Agency failed to fully reflect the views from experts that participated in the review. The conclusion report was not shared by all experts. The report should not be the shield or the green light for Japan's plan to discharge the nuclear contaminated water into the ocean. First, the report cannot justify Japan's plan. The Japanese side unilaterally decided to dump the nuclear contaminated water into the ocean, which is in fact minimizing its own cost and risk while letting the whole world take nuclear contaminated risk that could have been avoided. On 15 June, the government of the Republic of Korea confirmed that more than 20,000 times the international standard of strontium, a radioactive substance, was detected in the Fukushima nuclear contaminated water. Secondly, The report cannot give legitimacy to Japan's plan. By discharging the nuclear contaminated water into the Pacific Ocean, the Japanese site may violate obligations stipulated in international law, including the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea and the Convention on the Prevention of Marine Pollution by Dumping of Waste and Other Matters in 1972. Certainly, the report cannot ensure the safety of Japan's plan. The effectiveness and long-term reliability of Japan's purification facility is not verified by a third independent party. The authenticity and accuracy of the nuclear contaminated water data lacks proof, and the long-term influence of radionuclides in the nuclear contaminated water on food safety and people's health through biological concentration has not been studied. According to a report issued by the Tokyo Electric Power Company on June 5th, the radioactive elements CS-137 in the marine fish caught in the harbor of the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant is 180 times higher than the standard in Japan's food safety law. Fourthly, the report cannot ensure the effectiveness of the monitoring arrangement. TEPCO has tampered with or held back nuclear contaminated water data for many times. In the IAEA's plan, the monitoring arrangement does not include independent sampling and takes TEPCO's data and information as the basis of monitoring. Such practice is inadvisable. China urged Japan to respect the science and facts, not attempt to use the IAEA report to shield its ocean discharging, and faithfully fulfill its moral responsibility and obligation under international law, and stop pushing forward the ocean discharge plan. And I want to stress again, this is not a unilateral concern expressed by China alone. This is a concern expressed by many neighboring countries and peoples in the Asia Pacific. I thank you.
Thank you very much for Japan, for China, State of China, and there is, okay, I recognize the distinguished delegates from Japan. You have the floor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, we reiterate our disappointment and concern that this is raised in this manner at a forum where the appropriate delegates and the necessary technical experts with the legal mandates are not present. We will not reiterate all of the issues that we have continued to state at previous ESCAP meetings and all other related fora. But we want to reiterate that we are operating strictly under the relevant international law and the relevant intergovernmental agreed framework. The ALPS technology has been approved by the National Radiological Agency, which is an independent agency. Since 2019, it has functioned stably and up to standards to purify the water. The effectiveness of ALPS has been confirmed through the analysis by the IAEA, third country institutions, and multiple third-party organizations. The effectiveness of the ALPS treatment and safety of ALPS treated water has been repeatedly verified, and all results have been disclosed to the public in a transparent manner. After many years of comprehensive discussions by a group of Japanese experts, the discharge into the sea was selected because its monitoring can be conducted more accurately, and such method is adopted at nuclear power plants around the world, including China. Japan has assessed the other methods were deemed not to be responsible options, since the technology of these methods and monitoring after disposal were not established. Japan has undergone rigorous review by the IAEA since the early stage after the accident by the Great East Japan earthquake, and we emphasize there is no other nuclear power plants in the world that has received this type of rigorous review. IAEA assessed that the discharge into the sea was technically feasible and in line with international practice, and that the decision by the Japanese government was based on a sufficiently comprehensive analysis and on a sound scientific and technical basis. In addition, the Director General of the IAEA also clearly stated in an interview that there were no better alternatives. The IAEA comprehensive report has also concluded that the discharge of the ALPS treated water will have negligible radiological impact on humans and the environment, and this is the organization that possesses the mandate. In addition, a system of appropriate monitoring has been secured. Japan, again, will not approve any discharge of water that would have adverse effects on health of people and the environment in Japan or the world. Japan is, and we also want to point out that the IAEA Director General Grossi clearly articulated in his response to some interviews and press conference the report is scientifically impeccable, completely objective, and that he is entirely confident of the process and conclusion as it was based on an agreed intergovernmental process. He also stated that no expert disagreed on the contents of the report. The IAEA is mandated and authorized to establish or adopt and apply the international safety standards in the field of nuclear energy under the statute of the IAEA, and it has developed the IAEA safety standards for protection of people and the environment after consulting with all the member states, including China. Undermining the authority and function of the IAEA by questioning its report could mean rejection of China's own safety standards, which were established based on the IAEA safety standards. Therefore, it is an extremely irresponsible claim which could hinder the promotion of the peaceful use of nuclear energy. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Japan, for this statement. And now we give the floor to China for 2 minutes, please, for any reply.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to stress again, the report by the IAEA failed to fully reflect views from experts that participated in the review. The conclusion was not shared by all the experts. The report shall not be the shield or green light for Japan's plan of discharging nuclear contaminated water into the ocean. Mr. Chair, the discharging may harm people's health, global marine environment, and damage international public interest. China, as a neighboring country and a stakeholder, has every legitimate reason to express the strong concerns. It's not only China, but also the international community, including other neighboring countries and island countries in the Asia-Pacific, that has deep concerns. There are also many suspicious and opposing voices inside Japan itself. However, Japan refused to listen to the domestic and the international opposition and even described the legitimate concern as politicization. This is only to divert the attention. If anyone who thinks the nuclear contaminated water is suitable for drinking or swimming, they can keep it for drinking or swimming, or they can keep it for irrigation or industrial use. They don't have to dump it into the sea. Mr. Chair, it's not that China and Japan have not communicated on the issue. Instead, China has provided 2 question lists in written to Japan. Regretfully, they were not answered with sincere replies. Japan takes ocean discharging as the prerequisite for communication, and it played the same trick with IAEA. So what would be the point in such communication? China is always open to communication as long as it's sincere and conducted in good faith. Mr. Chair, we urge Japan to take seriously the legitimate concerns of the international community, earnestly fulfill its international obligations, and conduct full consultation with its neighbors, stakeholders, and relevant international institutions, and dispose the nuclear contaminated water in a science-based, open, transparent, and safe manner, play itself under strict international monitoring, and take credible steps to protect the marine environment and the health rights and interest of all peoples, including the people of Japan. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I thank the distinguished delegates from China for their statement. This concludes the second day of the 8th session of Committee on Disaster Risk Reduction. We will reconvene at 14 hours tomorrow in the same meeting room and under the same Zoom link to begin our discussion on Agenda Item 8 on the adoption of the report. The draft report will be available for delegates to review and will be uploaded on the event website in the morning before noon tomorrow. I would like to call on Ms. Benapachi to make an announcement of side events, please.
Thank you, Chair. So I'd like to just make some announcements on 3 side events that will be held over the lunch period from 12:30 onwards. The first one is on risk data governance and policy design. This event will be in meeting room F, and it's organized by UPDIM. The second one is on the role of women in early warning systems. And this event is co-organized by IFRC, UN Women, ITU, the Australian Embassy, and the Thai Red Cross. And it will be in meeting room H. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Banapachi, and I wish you the best. The meeting is adjourned. IDD to no need to announce. It's okay. Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. The meeting is finished, and I wish you the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very good. Thank you very much. That's